Welcome to Minutes with Mango, Life in Motion. I'm your host, Johnny Mango. This is the place where we inquire about lifestyle, culture, and careers. Weekly, we meet with new guests that make a contribution of their insightful stories about their careers and how those careers impact their lifestyle and culture. Hello, everybody. This is Johnny, and welcome to Minutes with Mango. You ever have a problem with like a contractor or like an auto mechanic and something hasn't worked out right? And you're kind of going, man, I wish I could get this solved, but I don't want to call my lawyer and spend all that money. Well, I've got somebody here today that just might be able to solve your problem. His name is David Hirsch, and he's the founder of Consumer Escalation Services. And he's going to tell us about how non-legal escalation services can provide service to you and other people who have problems trying to argue with whoever you may have out there that hasn't fulfilled what they said they were going to do with their service to you. So without a little further ado, I'd like to welcome David Hirsch. David, welcome, and welcome to Minutes with Mango.
Oh, thank you, Johnny. Yes, my name is David Hirschfield, and I would be my pleasure to tell you a little bit about myself.
Let's hear about what you're up to. Tell us about yourself.
I've spent most of my career working with people and solving problems. I spent many years in the new car automotive industry, eventually became a general sales manager. I also spent about 7 years in real estate. So I've dealt with customer service complaints, negotiation tracks, expectations, and problem solving. And then being a consumer myself, I've been advocating for myself over the last several years of dealing with situations. So I've learned how to, organize facts, what documents matter, and how to put them in a professional way to escalate a complaint.
Great. So what inspired you to start Consumer Escalation Services? What was the trigger for you? What caused you to do that?
Well, it came from life experiences. I started seeing how many people get stuck when they're trying to resolve an issue with a company. They may have a legitimate complaint and get frustrated, get emotional. And that's not the way you want to handle a complaint. And that's what inspired me, because my friends would call me and they would say, "Hey, David, I need you to take care of this for me. Tell me how to do this." So that was the inspiration, friends and family noticing that I had a way about going about it. I always through life have heard, do your passion, follow your passion. And my passion has always been understanding how to escalate and advocate for myself.
When people have a problem, I have somebody in my family right now that's in a big dispute with an auto mechanic, as an example. Okay. And I'm sure auto mechanics fall into the type of consumer needs that you have, right?
Right.
How does, what are the typical mistakes that people make when they're trying to solve a problem with a service provider?
Right. The biggest mistake people make is putting the emotional side into it. They get upset, they're given long explanations, they're given scattered complaints, and there's nothing organized. And that's where we come in and help people, because you really need to stay organized. You have to have your documents, your receipts, your emails, your screenshots, having all the documentation to make sure you're getting your point across correctly. And the third mistake is not really knowing what to ask for. Are you asking for reimbursement? Are you asking for the repair to be done properly? So, given a clear explanation of what your expectations are with the person that you're escalating.
So, tell me about some other mistakes that people make.
Uh, the the big mistake is the proper evidence gathering, being able to do a credible complaint. And like I said, you have to remove your emotions from the complaint and make it factual. And that's where I feel that we help people, because a lot of times they may know how to do it, but emotionally they're vested and they're not able to put together a proper complaint.
So you provide a service then to take their information and you take it over and to try to resolve that? Is that how it works?
Correct. We do an intake and gather all the facts. And with all those facts, we organize a package. So we send back a complete package. It's two things. They're able to print it off and send that certified return receipt, and they're also putting it into an email. So they're getting their complaint delivered in two fashions, the regular mail
Yeah.
and with a PDF.
So you package up everything to make the right presentation is what I'm hearing you
Correct.
say.
We do the presentation.
But you don't contact the provider.
No,
Okay.
because we're not giving legal advice. We're an advocacy company. We just
Okay.
help the consumer organize.
All right. Well, good. And I'm curious, can you do this anywhere in the country?
Nationwide. Yes,
Okay. All right.
absolutely.
So, wow, that's really, does anybody else, I've never heard of a service like this before. Is this one of a kind?
It is. It's a niche. I'm going into a niche here that I feel is needed. It's important. And even on our website, it's very important. You feel you can handle it on your own and you don't know or have the resources. We have a free resource guide on our website. So it's not about having you come in and pay us for a service. It's about you coming to our website, getting the information you need, and then you decide if you would like us to package it up and take care of it for
I see. Okay. And how is it different from you're non-legal? So what's the difference between non-legal the services you offer, and let's say I went to my attorney and said, "Hey, I've got this problem."
you. Right. Well, first off, an attorney is going to give you legal advice. An attorney is going to escalate possibly to a legal matter or small claims court. We're not an attorney. We don't give legal advice. So that's the big difference. We ask you for all your facts so we can organize it, get it put together, and get it back to you. So you're handling a complaint. We are not.
I see.
We are just,
Okay.
we are making it so it's going to be much easier to put in front of the company or people that you are dealing with.
And what happens if the company says, "That's nice, but I ain't paying you"? What happens then?
Well, at that point, then you have your options to take it to small claims court. We don't tell you that
Yeah,
because we're not giving you legal advice.
right,
What we do is we're preparing everything for you based on your case facts and what you've been with.
right, right. So, what do you think the percentage is of people who try to solve a problem and fail?
I feel it's very high because depending on what the situation is or what kind of escalation it is, but a lot of companies or even private entities, they will ignore you. They they will give you the runaround. They wear you down. And that's their goal. They do that intentionally. They just have you throw the towel in and say, it's not worth it. I don't want to waste any more time on it. So it's a very high percentage. When you send something organized, factual, and they see, oh boy, this person knows what they're talking about, they're more apt to try to resolve the situation.
Right, right. And what about, I know you wrote a book, right, on this. So the Consumer Escalation Playbook. Tell us a little bit about that. What's in that book and how does somebody find it?
Well, it's found on Amazon and you can download it or you can order it paperback or hard copy. The book is very clear on how to do it on your own so you don't feel powerless. It has templates in there. It has the scenarios of what mechanics, general contractors, mobile companies on how to deal, how to escalate. Also touches a little bit on LinkedIn because a lot of these executives, if you approach them correctly, they are on LinkedIn. So if you have a complaint and you can do it on your own, that's another avenue to do it. So the book is detailed on how to organize your complaint.
The distinction is so I could go buy the book and try to do this myself, or I could contact you and then you would provide that service. You would be more hands on, I would think, and more directional on what exactly I would need to do to resolve a complaint. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yes, we have the tools here to where we're able to go over all your factual evidence, and we're able to. The package you get back is very nice. It has a timeline how everything happened. A lot of travel complaints. Well, that wasn't the what I seen in the pictures and I want my money back because that's not the room that I put in the deposit for and paid for. So we're able to do a timeline and organize it where it's going to go over in a methodical, professional manner and it gets
Wow.
people to listen.
Okay. So let's kind of ramble through for a minute all the different industries that could be helpful to a consumer. Just to give our listeners an idea, because I mean I've heard you talk about travel, we talked about automobile, we've talked about a few things. So let's go through the list real quick of typical
Right.
typical businesses that need some escalation.
Absolutely. General contractor. There's a lot of general contractors out there that mean well. However, they get involved in a job and they're not, workmanship is not to your satisfaction. They don't show up. They stop halfway through the job. So general contracting is a big area. In other area,
You know, I
go ahead.
I know so many people that have had a contractor. They start the job and they don't finish it. It takes forever to finish. They do the base job, but they never get it complete. So this is where somebody could kick in and say, "Listen, you didn't finish the job and you need it done."
Absolutely. That's a
Okay.
big escalation issue nationwide. A lot of general contractors take on multiple jobs, then they try to do juggling their
Yeah.
help and going from job to job. They don't stay to the timeline. We see that complaint a lot. Another area that people don't think about are people who are renting homes or apartments. They move out and they don't get their security deposit. They have to fight to get their security deposit. The landlord makes up excuses. A lot of times they don't have the money to give to them, so they're trying to make up an excuse on why they're not going to give them back their rental deposit. So that's another area we could.
So landlords, okay, construction. What else you got on the list?
Well, we also help people with deactivations is what the gig worker industry. A lot of Uber, Lyft, Instacart. I don't want to name specific exact
Yeah.
companies. Just as an example, that one day they log on and says you've been deactivated. Maybe someone made a false complaint, maybe something to get them, and that's their livelihood. So
So so this would be the person that's making the deliveries or transporting somebody, not the consumer that's in the car or ordered the groceries.
correct,
Wow. So they
correct,
get they get automatically kicked out and for no reason, I guess, huh? Is that what you're saying?
Mm, correct. And there may be a reason, but it may not be legitimate. It could be the person made a false accusation. It could be a misunderstanding. There's a variable of reasons that they get deactivated, and because these large companies are all about protecting themselves and protecting their consumer, they immediately deactivate with no due process. Zero. You have this complaint, you're now deactivated, and now you're proven guilty before innocent, and we help gather the facts.
So through through the de-escalation of that particular situation, what's it do? It gets the person's job back. It gets them back into the being that contractor for whatever that service provider provides. Is that correct?
Correct. That's correct. It's their livelihood, and
Yeah,
it's very important and emotional
yeah.
for them, and we help them get through that. And it's
Well, I
very reasonable.
yeah, I had no idea that existed, but I guess it does. Everything exists. What else? See, now that's really helpful to to know about that. What else? Tell me about some other services.
Okay, so we're not a credit repair agency. I want to,
Right.
before I go into this next subject. However, you pull up your credit report, now you see a 30-day late or you see a collection on there. Well, wait a minute, what's going on? What do I do? They can reach out to what we call a credit um, repair letter that we prepare for
Uh-huh.
you and you send it over to you do it. We don't do it. You send it back to the credit reporting agencies. We organize it. We take all the facts. So you have a nice package you send over to them to say, I need this deleted. I need this taken off my credit report. You are representing yourself. We don't make any promises on the outcome, but we do help you organize that letter to the credit reporting agent. And an other area that's big is medical collection bills, medical
Yeah.
so we have a section where we help you get organized to dispute and escalate medical collections.
Okay. So, and you, one has to have a legitimate collection argument to get something resolved. If they, if they really screwed up and didn't do something, escalation services probably won't be able to help them that much, I would think, because of, yeah. So
Right.
they have to have a real legitimate complaint here. Like
Correct.
you didn't finish the construction job or whatever. How about a few more? I think the medical one's a big one too. Heard lots of people talk about that.
Right. Well, because a lot of times you don't even realize you have a medical collection and it's something the insurance company may have taken care of. However, the hospitals or the doctors are so quick to put something on your credit report. So now you have to put together a package, send it over to the collection agency, send it over to the doctor, send it to the insurance company, send them proof. And that's
Right.
what we help individuals with is get that cleared up.
Okay. Good. What else we got?
Uh, any service-based company that you feel that you're correct, that you should get a refund, we can help you with that. And
So like the guy that takes care of my lawn or my plumber, the
right,
electrician, all those service jobs.
absolutely. Again, that's why we offer free resources because it may not, the amount may not make sense, but you may be a person of principles and say, this guy owes me $75. I paid him and he never did the service.
Right.
Well, you go into our free resources or you buy the book, and that's going to show you how to escalate that in a proper fashion to
Right.
get your money.
What about the bigger situation where they really need you to step in and organize this? Is the service are there prices around the service, or how do you do that?
Yeah, there is a price and packaging page right on the website, and
Okay.
it starts at $149.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay. So somebody can go to the website and look at the various packages. And what is your website?
consumerescalationservices.com.
That's pretty easy. Consumer Escalation Services.com. All right.
Yes,
And I'm sure there's a way to find you on there if they want to contact you directly if they need help or want to talk about something.
absolutely. We have two direct numbers, and we have a toll-free number. I can give that to you if you like, is 888-444-4177. And that can reach out directly to me or anyone on the staff, but we're all here to help you. That's not a problem. And we also have a 24-hour AI assisted. I know some people are not adapting to that, but it is very intuitive. And you can go in and ask questions, and it will answer your questions 100% correctly.
Really? Wow. Okay. Good for you. Um, so the tell me about w- tell me about the largest or the most critical uh, escalation you've had. I know you were doing this before you started your company. So tell me a little bit about give me some examples of what you've worked on to solve.
Well, I'll give you a personal example. I don't want to say that it's the largest. However, I was at a very prominent theme park, let's say, in the Anaheim area, where thousands of people go to. And we went there for a day of enjoyment. And it was not a day of enjoyment. It was a day of mismanaged crowd control, not being able to get in line to see characters. You get up to the front. Oh, sorry, this character is tired, going on break, just on and on, broken
Really?
down ride. You punch your ticket to get there at a certain time. You show up at a certain time. Oh, sorry, it's down for service. Something happened. So it was just a really bad day. It was, very expensive. It was probably $1,500 and money spent for the day for the family. And I was upset. And I tried to take care of it at the park level. And sorry,
Yeah.
things happen. They didn't want to help me. So I personally went on my LinkedIn account and looked up board of directors, looked up CEO. I mean, I just reached out to 8 or 10 different very high level executives, put together a factual timeline, everything that happened, and sent it off to all these different emails. And within 2 or 3 business days, I had an executive assistant from the CEO's office reach out to me, listened to me very kindly, took all my facts. She called me back within an hour and said, "We're going to go ahead and send out 4 free park tickets for you to go back and enjoy with your family."
Well, that was nice. Okay. All right. So that was resolved then. That was easily resolved. Here's another one. How about airlines? I mean, I would think that a lot of people in airlines have escalation needs. They get
They do.
bumped.
I miss that travel. That's the travel industry. And there's a, we don't give legal advice, but there are a lot of very specific rules that protect consumers that the airlines will not put that in front of you. So, as gathering facts, we gather the facts of what happened. Um, they will not take care of travel weather related issues. It's in all their disclaimers. So, if you miss a connection due to weather, they wash their hands.
Right.
However, there are people who show up and they have their ticket bought, but they can't even get on because they overbooked, they oversold. And that's where we can gather the facts and put together a good um, package for the consumer to get some results on something like that. Because a lot of times at the gate agent level, they just blow people off and they don't take care of them.
What about mechanical issues on an airline? Is there escalation? Can you get, you know, my flight was delayed 3 hours and I missed, because of they had to put another engine on the airplane, whatever. Okay, some type of mechanical problem.
That you are 100% should be taken care of. Mechanical issues is not something that is in their contract, and they can definitely and should take care of you. They don't offer unless you ask. One thing I noticed with travel industry, they will help you if you ask, or if the person at the gate doesn't have time or they don't want to deal with it. Don't let it go. Sure, you follow through with that complaint and take care of it. And that's where we help a lot of people also that need that
I
kind of
was
help.
on here's one I'm kind of curious about. I was on a train. This has been some years ago. And I was traveling coach with my family. And we were traveling all night on this train. And in the middle of the night, there was a guy in the same car that was causing a major disturbance to the point where they had to stop the train at the next station and the police had to come on and take this person off. I'm just curious, is there any is there any escalation and something like it didn't interrupt my travel, but it was a disturbance.
I would definitely escalate that to a customer service standpoint
Really?
because you were inconvenienced and there is an expectation on your end of comfort and convenience of that travel experience, and your experience was not met. The
Yeah.
expectation was not met.
So there's a lot
And
of there's a lot what I'm hearing from you, there's a lot of nuance here. There's a lot of different
yeah,
ways to say, "Hey, I need to be compensated for the interruption of my travel, for the disturbance that caused all this angst for me and all that those types of things."
right. I'll give you a personal example. I was on a flight and I boarded the flight. They were running behind about 2 hours. So people were a little upset. They were tense and they went to the bar. They had a few drinks, some of the people. So I sit and I put my things up, in the baggage up top, and the gentleman gets on and there's no more space for him to put his carry-on. He just happens to open up the bin where my things are at, pulls my things out of the bin, puts his in there. He goes, "Sorry, buddy, I'm taking your spot." And he'd been
Really?
drinking, right? And when he pulled my stuff out, it kind of hit my shoulder, and I'm like, fortunately, this is all being witnessed by one of the flight attendants, and they're like in disbelief. He's
Yeah.
pulling my things out. So she comes over to me. She goes, "We have this." They ended up taking him off the plane. They
Wow.
had to get the police in there to take him off.
Yeah.
And she came over to me. She goes, "I talked to the captain. We have," and I didn't even escalate it. She goes, "We have a spot open in business class. We're going to move you up to business class for what happened. We're very sorry."
Yeah.
The, the reason I bring that up, you mentioned about your experience on the train. They do want you to have comfort. This was something out of their control, out of my control, and they took the initiative first before I
Yeah.
even said anything.
Yeah. I've got another one for you. I have a friend who a few weeks ago, but this is fairly recent. I have a friend who um, they thought he may have been having a stroke. Okay, turns out he didn't, but they thought he may, and he was taken by ambulance to a ER and went through the ER process, and they admitted him to the hospital. They did a CT scan on him right away, but they said, you know what? We're going to admit you because we want to look deeper. We want to do an MRI. Okay. And so this guy had to wait 36 hours for an MRI in the hospital. And talk about inconvenience. I was surprised when I heard that. That seems like an awful long time to be waiting for a diagnostic on a serious medical condition. But I don't know. You think there's any resolution to that? Any way to escalate that one?
Whenever you're not happy with the outcome, there's nothing that stops you for advocating for yourself.
Yeah.
So that's the point I really like to get across to to anyone that calls us, if they use us or not. If you feel you have a valid issue, like you just mentioned, I would definitely reach out to the general manager of the hospital, the director,
Yeah.
and let them know what happened because you never know. A lot of times they'll come back. It can be compensation, it can be in many ways. Even an apology is nice
Yeah.
and give you an
Yeah.
explanation.
Because that seemed like an awfully long time. I don't know what their problem was, but that's a long time to. In fact, my friend told me even the nurses were like, we gotta get this moving. They kept calling down to the MRI department, and so I
Right.
don't know. Okay, well, say it was a curious one. I thought I'd ask you about that. So there's all kinds of different things here. How about I'm thinking about kids in school. I'm thinking about when my kids were in college. We talked about the rent stuff and the deposits. What about with schools? What about with college and stuff like that? Any typical escalation things happen there?
Every circumstance,
Yeah.
the bottom line is going to be your facts, your evidence.
Okay.
Take the emotion out of it. What is your outcome? So when you say, is there any escalation? There may be, but what is your outcome? What are you looking for?
Right.
So that's a very important part of the complaint. The escalation is to, you can complain about something, but what do you want them to do?
Right. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. It reminds me, I had one of my kids in college, shared a room with another student, on the college campus in the dorms. It turned out this other kid he would come in late at night. They think he might have been dealing drugs. They weren't sure, but he would come into the room way late at night with a bunch of people and have a big party. And my son came to me and he said, "Dad, I can't. This is crazy. I can't sleep. I can't study. This guy's in here partying all the time." And I remember I called housing services, who put me in contact with the head of the whole site of that college with housing and recruiting and all that stuff. We got it resolved, but it took a lot of work. And that's the type of stuff you're talking about that I wanted to get my kid out of there. And I said, I don't care if he live. I think it was if I remember, it's been so many years, but I think it was a mandatory first year had to live on campus. One of those colleges where you had to live on campus. And what I finally resolved with them was to let my son live off campus because they couldn't provide. They didn't have any more room. They were booked full. So they allowed him to move out, and they didn't charge me for his house. They gave me a credit for his housing and all that. But yeah, I could see where I could have used your services for that because it was a lot of phone calls to get through to the right people and get it taken care of. And I really didn't know who to call at first. I didn't know who to reach out to first. So I think
Right,
it's knowing who to call and how to do it, and so I'm starting to get a better grasp of what you got going on here. Pretty interesting.
right.
And I hope you stay really busy.
Well, we look forward to it. It's gratifying to help others, and like I said, the system is set up to wear you down and to just have you throw the towel in and not worry about it
Yeah.
and just
And
give
it's
up.
pretty affordable. So very
Yeah.
affordable.
Yes, we make it affordable. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And if you use us or not, just remember one thing. Keep the emotion out of it and always ask for a supervisor. If you're getting nowhere with who you're talking with, kindly say, I need to escalate this to your manager, to your supervisor, and you keep climbing the top until you get to someone who can listen to you and align themselves with what you're
Yeah.
saying.
Yeah. Okay. Got it. David Hirschfield, I want to thank you for joining us today. It's been really interesting. I think a lot of people can use your services. It's a unique service for sure. And again, thanks for being here today.
Thank you, Johnny. It was my pleasure, and I hope it helps a lot of you.
You have been listening to Minutes with Mango, Life in Motion. Subscribe to hear a new and unique guest each week as they comment on their life's journey and share experiences with lifestyle, culture, and career. You can always find us at minuteswithmango.com.